Hello, and welcome to Abuse Recovery Troopers. This is the first episode that I want to introduce to you about how we're getting our name. The abuse recovery comes from the idea that these videos will be featured for people who are trying to recover from any of the cluster B personality disordered individuals that they may have been in relationships with. Most of the material on these YouTube videos will be featured to address spouses of people with narcissistic personality disorder, for example, or any of the other personality disordered conditions that would impair that individual in that relationship. So that's where the abuse recovery comes into place. We will be interviewing different people to learn about these different personality disorders, as well as comorbidities that they may have. For example, a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorders also have sexual addiction or drug addiction or something like this as a comorbidity. And we will also be focusing some of our videos on recovery. It's not just a matter of understanding, for example, narcissism or borderline personality disorder, but also in trying to figure out how to get past that, how to recover from the abuse that one would experience in such a relationship. So the first part of the title, the Abuse Recovery Troopers, that explains the abuse and the recovery portion of that. The last part of that name, Troopers, comes from a story that I would like to share about my children when they were growing up. My son and daughter, two sons and daughter, would go to, we would take an annual trek to Disney World or Disneyland in California. And my daughter really felt that the walking required on average, maybe 12, 15 miles a day was a little bit much for her. So she wanted to be in the stroller. I had a very large stroller that was pretty nice, kind of like a Bob. I'll plug Bob strollers as being really my idea of a nice stroller. And she didn't want to walk, and she would kind of wimp out after a little bit. And this was when she had gotten older. She was 4 and 5, 6 years old, had already started to elementary school, and wanted me to bring the stroller and push her around so that she didn't get tired and whiny and all of that kind of stuff. So her older brother told her one year, he said, "Mom, look at that. The tires on this thing are getting ready to explode and just pop off. And because of the weight, it's not meant to carry like a 60-pound first grader or whatever." I can't remember how much you're supposed to weigh when you're in first grade. But he said, "This is just not going to go." So he said, "Listen, I want you, sister, to just walk through the parks. And if you make it till the end of the day, you're going to earn your trooper badge." Well, this was truly an inspirational thing for her, and he incentivized it by saying she was going to actually get something, a concrete reward at the end, that's trooper badge, which I had no idea what that might be, and I don't think he did either. He just wanted to get rid of the stroller and have her walk. So she did make it through the day. There were parts where she was all sweaty and red-faced and looked like she was going to faint, but she kept pushing through. And by the end of the day, come to find out, he had gone into one of the gift shops and bought a little keychain with her, it was about this big, and it had her name on it and some like Disney characters. And so he presented her with that. And when we got back to the hotel, and he said, "Oh, sis, I'm so proud of you that you earned this. You did such a good job." So that's how we got with the word trooper. And through the years, that was always something that we called each other when something was really hard. It was a heavy lift. It was super difficult. We would say, "Come on, be a trooper. You want your trooper badge, don't you?" And so I don't have badges for those of you who are watching these YouTube videos, but I do want to tell you that I do have the idea that we are troopers just to still be here. This is very difficult stuff that we're dealing with here to recover from from sometimes years of our cognitive dissonance and our very subtle psychological manipulations that happen with us. And it's just a very difficult experience, life-changing in so many ways. So I think anybody who can get successfully to the other side, over the wall and down on the other side, clearly is a trooper. And so we are abuse recovery troopers. We're going to try to make it to full healing, where we reclaim our identity, we work through the grief process, we learn how to be whole, how to be healthy, have self-care, and to get past whatever trauma that we experienced in our abusive relationships, and more importantly, how to avoid repeating the pattern, how to avoid becoming serial offenders when it comes to being attracted to that narcissist or to that person that has that personality disorder. And so that is the history for the name Abuse Recovery Troopers. And you can look forward to videos about the different personality disorders, what it does to people who are in relationships with people who have these disorders, how to heal when you're out of it, how to stay out, go no contact, and how to reclaim your life, and how to avoid having similar experiences in the future, like steps you can take to make sure that you never have to go through this living hell again. And so that's the purpose of our videos. And there are 3 of us who work together to bring this to you with our little, we're all troopers. And none of us are fully, I don't think you're ever fully recovered. I don't think you're ever completely free of what has happened here. But we do learn to be the best version of ourselves that's healthy and doing self-care and surviving. And we're troopers because we're fighters, and we don't want to relinquish our life. And just, it's like when we fall down, we don't want to lay there and say, oh my gosh, I've fallen and I can't get up. We want to get up and we want to get on. And we don't want to let this experience shape our lives in ways that's debilitating and toxic and prevents us from having joy and happiness that we much deserve. So welcome to Abuse Recovery Troopers. The initials for this are ART. So this is the ART podcast and video series. There is a podcast that goes with this that you can find on Anchor. It will also be out on Spotify and several other locations, so that if you can't watch the videos, you can see the topics will be pretty much in alignment with what the videos are about. It'll just be a podcast instead of the video. So we'll also have a blog and a website where you can go and communicate with us and all kinds of things like that. So I'm excited that you're here. I am on that journey towards recovery myself, and it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. And I just want to emphasize that unless you're a member of the tribe, unless you have experienced this full narcissistic abuse, or something from some other person with cluster B personalities, they talk about the dark triad, and we will talk about, other, what's the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath, and how sometimes they're all just kind of rolled into one big hot mess. I think it's important to remember that the things that we cover in these, we're all on that journey, and we can use the information to help us to recover. So all of us have been through it firsthand, and we have done extensive research. We've all done therapy with professional therapists who have guided us. We've bought programs from online entities that offer boot camps and recovery programs, and we'll even do a whole show, a whole presentation on different resources to help you, from podcasts to recovery programs to different apps you can put on your phone, all kinds of things that we will cover. So I'm glad you're here. I hope you can get something that is useful. I think when people go through this, they suddenly become very passionate about trying to help other people. Because if you're not part of that tribe, and if it hasn't happened to you, there's just so many people out there, including therapists, who do not speak the language. They do not understand what you are going through. They do not have the training, the comprehension, the knowledge, the information to be able to respond to you in the ways that you need the support. It's just so easy to misunderstand what you're going through. So we are a group of people who have been through it. So we recognize this when we see it with others, and reach out to each of you who are going through this to try to help you the best we can when no one else can listen or will listen, or they won't validate what you're experiencing, or they're minimizing it or discounting it, or somehow saying, just get over it already. You're just being a drama queen or king, and that's not it at all. This is a complete life-changing, body, mind, and soul hijacking withdrawal that I would compare to an addiction to heroin, and that withdrawing from the narcissist or other disordered person is very much like that kind of withdrawal. And it includes every part of you, from top of your head down to your toes, your chakras, your aura, your physicality, your neurotransmitters in your brain, the things that trigger panic attacks, like all of it. It is a complete experience that's not just an emotional sadness or grief. It's so much more than that we have to try to come to terms with and try to understand it. They're never going to give us closure. They're never going to admit wrongdoing. The people who have this disorder are incapable of validating that and allowing you to have that closure and that understanding. So we're going to have to find some other ways to move on, to let go, and to be okay. So welcome again. Glad you're here, and I look forward to having a lot of great information for you, great conversations, and ultimately great recovery. Thank you. Bye.